All right, let's get straight to it. This is the Vitality Protocol, and today we're going to engineer your motivation system. Forget the quick fixes, forget the fitness hype. What you're about to get is an operator's manual for the human machine. Our objective is simple, to engineer your drive from the ground up. So, let's start with a really direct diagnostic. Why do you feel unmotivated? I mean, is your drive all over the place? Do you find it hard to just start something or to keep going once you do? You need to understand this is not a moral failing. It's not a character flaw. It's a system error in your biological hardware. And here's the core issue, the thing you absolutely have to grasp. Your biological operating system, which has been fine-tuned over millions of years for survival and pursuit, it's been systematically hacked by the modern world. Your environment is feeding you corrupted data, and as a result, your hardware is malfunctioning. So, to fix this, we need a clinical approach, a clear plan. First, we're going to diagnose the motivation operating system. Then, we'll deconstruct the dopamine engine that powers it. After that, we'll analyze the failure points. What's going wrong? And then, I'm going to give you specific, actionable protocols for system recalibration. The goal is for you to become the biological engineer of your own system. Okay, let's dive into section 1 and begin that system diagnosis. Your motivation, it's not some mystical force. It isn't magic. It is a biological system, and it's governed by very specific inputs and outputs. And the main currency of this entire system is a neuromodulator called dopamine. This right here forces us to completely update our old, outdated ideas about dopamine. Dr. Andrew Huberman puts it perfectly. It's not the molecule of pleasure. Think of it as the universal currency for effort. It's the thing that literally converts wanting something into the physical and mental work of doing it. So the crucial point to lock in is that dopamine's #1 job is to drive you toward goals. The entire system is built to reward the pursuit, that feeling you get when you know you're on the right track, whether you're chasing a reward or trying to avoid a punishment. It really is the molecule of more. Now, let's pop the hood and do a system teardown. If you want to engineer this system, you first have to understand its fundamental components. How does this motivation engine actually tick? Your dopamine system works in 2 main modes. First, you've got tonic dopamine. The best way to think about this is like the baseline water level in a wave pool. It's your default state, your general level of enthusiasm and drive. And then you have phasic dopamine. These are the sharp spikes, the actual waves that ride on top of that baseline when something rewarding happens. And this right here is where the whole system failure begins. Our biology evolved to handle moderate, healthy dopamine peaks from things that take effort. But the inputs we get from the modern world, they create these massive, disproportionate, totally unnatural phasic spikes that our biological hardware was never, ever designed to handle. And you have to remember, the engine is designed for pursuit. Dopamine is meant to be released during the effort, not just dumped on you in a massive flood at the end. It's a concept called reward prediction error, and all it means is that your brain is hardwired to release dopamine to reinforce the work that leads to a reward. Okay, let's move on to the failure analysis. We understand the components. Now let's diagnose exactly how this finely tuned engine breaks down in our modern environment. Here it is, the system's core vulnerability. It's called the pleasure-pain balance. See, your brain is a master of homeostasis. It is always trying to find equilibrium. So for every unnaturally high peak of dopamine you experience, your brain compensates by dropping your baseline level below where it even started. This chart shows you that mechanism in action. After a huge phasic spike, your baseline doesn't just return to normal, it plunges into a trough. And now, all of a sudden, it takes even more stimulation just to feel okay. This is the biological root of craving. It's the root of anhedonia, that inability to feel pleasure from the things you used to enjoy. So, these are the primary sources of that corrupted data I mentioned, the vectors of the hack. We're talking endless scrolling on social media, hyper-palatable processed foods, pornography, video games. They are all literally engineered to deliver the maximum possible phasic spike for the absolute minimum amount of effort. And they're constantly driving down your baseline, draining your tank for real intrinsic motivation. So, how do we fix it? That brings us to section 4, protocols for system recalibration. And listen, we're not talking about fuzzy lifestyle tips here. We are providing clinical engineering protocols designed to restore the integrity of your system and build a durable, resilient baseline. Protocol number 1 is completely non-negotiable. You have to run the circadian startup sequence. What does that mean? Upon waking, you need to get 10 to 30 minutes of direct, low solar angle sunlight into your eyes. No sunglasses. This specific kind of light is the most powerful stimulus for the cells that anchor your body's master clock. Doing this consistently times the release of key hormones like cortisol and dopamine, creating a much more resilient baseline for the entire day. Next up, Protocol 2, purge corrupted data. You may have heard this called a dopamine fast. By taking intentional breaks from these hyperstimulating inputs, you allow your dopamine receptors to reset and upregulate. They literally become more sensitive again. A great way to start is with a 48-hour fast from one specific behavior. But here's the key. You can't just create a void. You have to replace the input. Instead of scrolling, go for a walk. Instead of the processed snack, read a book. The goal isn't emptiness. It's intentional replacement. Protocol 3 is the most advanced step, and it's about rewriting your own reward code. First, you have to deliberately start attaching that dopamine release to the effort itself, not the prize at the end. So stop layering cheap rewards onto hard tasks, like scrolling your phone between sets at the gym. That just teaches your brain that the hard work is only something to get through to get to the easy thing. Second, you have to use internal self-talk to reinforce the process. Literally say to yourself, I am doing this because it is difficult. And finally, you can use specific tools like deliberate cold exposure or non-sleep deep rest, NSDR, to naturally increase your baseline. These practices have been shown to replenish your tonic dopamine for hours afterward, building a truly self-sustaining system. And that brings us to our final section, which is really about a shift in your identity, becoming a biological engineer and assuming total system control. Here's the most important takeaway of all. Your internal state, how you feel, your level of focus, your motivation, it's not random. It is not a mystery. It is an engineered output, determined entirely by the inputs you provide. You wouldn't put diesel in a high-performance gasoline engine and then wonder why it's not working. The exact same logic applies to your biology. You have direct control over the inputs, so it's time to stop guessing and start engineering. This isn't just a bunch of information. This is your operator's manual. The system is now in your hands. So the only question that really remains is, what will you engineer today?